Today we're going to talk about something that happened yesterday. So yesterday, as many of you know, my stream crashed. Let me turn off the music. Let's get serious. So my stream crashed yesterday, and it crashed 4 times in a row, and it was all when I was getting right back into it, like right back into the debate or right back into the conversation. And it was right when the important event was starting and going on. And after talking to some people, it has been suggested to me that it was probably a DDoS, whatever. Anyway, hopefully this has been dealt with. Hopefully I've gone through the whole thing to deal with it, whatever. Anyway, so I left that a little peeved. I left that situation peeved off. So I was slightly angry, good sir. And, you know, I was slightly angry. And there has been a million things poking me for the longest time that I wanted to talk about. So, I decided that I would create a thread or a message out to throw out to all the people about some issues that I've had with online political discourse and what I will call armchair activists, empty political commentary, a bunch of dunderheads who are playing politics, you know? Playing it.
You sit behind a computer and do a debate. It's ridiculous.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Geek. Thank you so much for rating with 15 peoples. I appreciate that, my lovely editor. So, I did this thread, and I did not expect it to get picked up in the way it was. It was picked up, obviously, it did quite well with my followers. Some other bigger people have retweeted it or called to it. It has shown up on multiple Reddit threads in different communities, and it's being talked about. So, you know, if my purpose was to start a conversation, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. No questions asked. So, I wanted to talk about this thread because I am calling out a lot of your political streamers, your favorite political streamers, and you know what? I called out a few. The lower level ones, I didn't care about bringing the names out because people wanted me to say some names. So, you know, and I felt like it, so I did. But there's a good chance you're in the comments or the chat right now and you're like, damn, Dylan, you're a truth teller. You're really bringing truth to power right now. You're really calling them out. And there's probably a lot of streamers who have messaged me after this saying, damn, Dylan, you're a truth teller. You're really calling them out. The funny thing is, though, 80% of the people in my chat who are saying this to me follow or in communities with people that I am talking about here. And half the people who have messaged me saying, good job, Dylan, you called out those armchair activists, are the very people I was talking about in this thread. They're patting me on the back, not realizing I'm calling them out. There was one person I literally added in this thread and said, this person. And they somehow took it as like a compliment. Or it was somehow twisted into a compliment. I don't know. I really don't. So, let's go through this thread. And we'll talk about this. And you can all ask me questions. Did something happen that made me write this out? So it's something that's been on my mind for a while and something that's aggravated me. The unprofessionalism of many streamers I didn't get to really even talk about in this thread. That's a whole separate thread about how unprofessional Twitch streamers are, and the type of work environment they produce is extremely toxic. But that's just a general Twitch problem, not just a political Twitch problem. I was talking political Twitch, right? I was talking political Twitch. The unprofessionalism of Twitch streamers canceling last second. I don't know if I'm really gonna come on. I don't really know. It's day of. Nah, I'm good. Or I can come on for an hour. That type of unprofessional environment they produce. The sexual harassment. I haven't talked about it a lot, but I have legitimately faced at least 2 instances of sexual harassment from other streamers. Even one instance of somebody who was on my panel and tried to do that. The unprofessionalism is undeniable, but this is a general Twitch problem. This is a general Twitch problem. So that's not really what I wanted to make this thread about. What I made this thread about was specifically people undercutting others who are actually trying to do political activism, people who are extremely nitpicky or want politicians to be their friend. You know what? I'll just go through the thread. I don't need to talk about what it's about. We could just read it together. Again, I didn't expect this to get so much attention. You know, I was DDoSed. My stream was getting screwed with, and you know what? I was kind of angry. I've been thinking about this a while, and I thought, you know what? What's a good way to relieve my stress? A nice, lovely Twitter thread. You know, I've been on the platform for a year now. I've taken in some ideas, taken in some thoughts, and this is what I've produced. Okay? So, let's start this, eh? Time to get something I've been thinking about online political discourse for a while. The amount of pointless, irrelevant, self-defeating, purity testing, clueless, nitpicky dunderheads who do nothing but waste everyone's time with empty political commentary. Now, obviously, this is just me throwing every possible insult that can come to my head about these people out there at once. It's just showing that I'm quite peeved about the situation on political Twitch. So, the first thing I talk about, and this is something that if anybody denies, I think they're just, I think they're completely clueless. I think this is, I opened up with the easy one. They have ideologies that change like hats. Not normal hats either. One week you're wearing a pirate top hat, and the next week it's a pirate hat. One week it's Maoism with Titoist characteristics, and the next it's anarcho-communism with a hint of syndicalism. Look, if you want to engage in radical politics, whatever, right? We can have a specific discussion about like specific ideologies under that blanket. But what I see a lot on this platform is people jumping from this to that to this to that to this to that to this to that. People who haven't really built the foundations of the political ideology or haven't gone out there and done the work in politics or anything, coming out saying commentary, and 1 week they're like an anarcho-communist, the next week they're a syndicalist, then they're a social democrat, then they're an ML, and it's like you know, it's almost as if they took the political compass test and tried to play the snake game. You know what I'm talking about? Where the snake, you can't let the snake hit the tail, and decided to play the snake game with the political compass test, just going over it constantly, endlessly. And you know, I understand people grow over time. This is something that happens. If you look at Hunter Avalon, who I still have a million disagreements with, he is somebody who has gone from being, I would say, far right to maybe moderate conservative to in that area, center right or whatever. That type of growth I think is good, and that can happen, and it seemed to have happened over a period of 1 to 2 years, which is fine. I do think a lot of it has to do with him not building the foundations of his ideology fully, or him just saying stuff or repeating stuff out to the crowd without really thinking it through. But that's a type of growth that I could possibly understand. But the people I constantly see on this fucking platform, or people jumping onto this platform, and these are not, I'm not talking about a lot of the bigger streamers here. I'm talking about people who just jump on and hop around. These are people who are just trying to get into political Twitch, just people who are constantly DMing me about coming on my panels. And what I see is just this constant ring around the rosy of what they believe. And personally, my belief is, if you are still in the ring around the rosy stage about trying to pick what you believe, or try to get to where you believe, or get to a general area what you believe, maybe hold off on the Twitch channel, hold off on the YouTube channel, and just give it some time. And you know what? This applies to all age groups, okay? Because I've seen people in their late 40s do this. I've seen people who are like 15, 20, 25. This happens all the time, okay? Across all age groups. It's not a thing about age. I have Polar's World in my stream team. And it's because I genuinely think he's a bright young individual, and as somebody who has literally went out and changed the city charter to make it easier for young people to participate in city politics, I do believe young people can participate. But if you're young or old or whatever, and you're doing this thing where 1 week you're this, 1 week you're that, 1 week you're this, 1 week you're that, just Just put the camera down and give it some time. This right here is very milquetoast. If you have a disagreement with this, I think you're off your rocker. I think you're off of it. There's the only good counter argument I heard was that if somebody starts a Twitch channel, then they might have to be challenged on their beliefs and they could then get to their foundational beliefs quicker. My counter to that would be is, okay, that's good for them, but what about all the people they're influencing with crap arguments that they haven't thought out that change from every week to week? So it's good for their personal development that they get to interact on the big stage, but they're also influencing others with their rhetoric. Okay, next. Oh, it's just me explaining it out more. I understand that you're still growing, but if you are still growing ideologically so rapidly, with sharp turns in what you believe, maybe wait a little bit before starting that Twitch channel. Most of your ideologies that you're treating like fads are irrelevant anyway. Okay, so this is something that did get me a little hit. But Dylan, irrelevant, how dare you say that about this or that or this ideology? I didn't even name any ideologies besides, like, what was it? Anarcho-communism with a hint of syndicalism, or Maoism with Tito. It's just random things thrown together. What I'm talking about is these ideologies that endlessly, when you apply them to an American political system, and I guess this is mostly from an American perspective, become parties of one, right? If you're genuinely going out in an American political system and you're declaring yourself a Marxist-Leninist, you will never be able to really get candidates into office. You will never be able to run for office. You will be purposely distanced from everybody. No one will want to associate with you. And even activist groups will want to distance themselves with you, besides a select few, which would be willing to work with you. I mean this wholeheartedly. When I see MLs try to actually do this, ultimately, one of two things happens. Number one, they jump on an irrelevant political party that has no influence and nothing ever happens besides crashing and burning, and someone fills in their name because they didn't understand what the vote was for. You know, when you... there's a lot of people who just go into the booth, they see like a lot of people running for county council, they don't know who the people are, so they just fill in one with random. That's the only votes they ever end up getting. The second part, the second area. Marxist-Leninists trying to participate in or try to move... What's the best way to put this? Marxist-Leninists or these irrelevant ideologies trying to move... What's the best way to put it? I'm trying to think of what's the best way to say this. Oh, the second type of Marxist-Leninists that I see are people who don't want to participate in the system at all, which I think that right there, I actually respect 10 times more than the people who are trying to participate. And that's not because I don't want people to participate in the system. I do want people to participate in the system, but I think it's that they've realized the reality on multiple counts. I think one, ideologically did disagree with participating in the system. Whatever. I don't care, I think you're wrong. But I think they've also realized the reality of their Marxist-Leninists, that's not electorally plausible. And if you are a Marxist-Leninist who accepts the fact that your ideology is politically irrelevant in the United States, that accepts the fact that a political party will never be able to succeed in this country due to historical trends and how this nation just views Marxist-Leninism, and due to the stigmas around it and the pointless weight you apply to yourself by taking on that label, okay, and your sole purpose is to exist on the fringes of society, possibly pulling society somewhat closer to this side or that side. That is the only type I could possibly and somewhat respect. But the problem is, if you're in that position and you're constantly spitballing the people who are actually on the ground trying to push stuff a lot faster, a lot more effectively, trying to get us Senate seats, trying to get us to do the work, then that respect immediately is dropped. Because I could respect your acceptance of your political ideology being not applicable. There's no way it's going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And even let's say you did believe in Marxist-Leninism. Let's say I believed in it for a second. Wouldn't the smartest thing to do politically and you know you shouldn't lie, but just not say that you're a Marxist-Leninist and participate within the system without putting that dangerous label on yourself? Wouldn't that be the most effective? Look, that's a totally different discussion. All I'm getting at is that it's always interesting to me to see people with ideologies or with the way they label themselves or how they participate in politics in the most irrelevant, ineffective way possible, going at others for their participation in politics because it doesn't line up with their party of one idea. Let's say that I had a certain set of beliefs, right? Right here. Let's say I more closely aligned with Marxist-Leninism than social democracy or democratic socialism, which are two things that are more becoming embedded in, I think, a lot of left-wing rhetoric and left-wing politics in this country. And I more closely align with Marxist-Leninism. Just for just sole purpose of being more effective and helping more people, jumping off of that and being like, you know what? I know that this party of one idea is not going to work. I know that me being this pure in my ideas on how I interact with politics isn't going to work. I know it's inapplicable. I know that the vast majority of Americans will never align with this. So I'm going to go with the thing that is actually slowly pushing the country the other way. That just makes more strategic sense to me. Anyway. This right here is the boring stuff. This is stuff that's been said a million times, and I just wanted to throw it out there again to, you know, get the click likes. Okay. This is the thing where I actually started getting the real heat. Another thing, get over yourself when it comes to what you expect a politician today to be. These Puritans want politicians to be their friends who agree with everything they think and not agents of change. Voting is a tool that should drag us closer to that world we want. Those agents of change will often be extremely flawed, but you should never give up on an opportunity to achieve movement in the right direction and prevent movement in the wrong direction. Of course, voting does not give you warm fuzzies. Lives are at stakes. It sucks. So this is the area where people would then at me and say, Dylan, you monster. Would you tell somebody who was a victim of X thing to vote for somebody who passed that law that did X thing? Would you tell somebody who was a victim of this or that to vote for someone in this or that? No, I would not go up to somebody directly and say that. It's insensitive, and I don't think it's going to lead to anybody really changing their mind in that way. Maybe slowly, if they wanted to engage in that conversation, I could. But if they were to ask me honestly, should they, in my opinion, vote for the person? If it means preventing a further rightward shift in the country, or in a direction, or for the writings in chat, in a direction that you don't like, that would be a reason to vote for them. Or if it pushes a shift in the correct direction, in my opinion, then yes. I'm not voting for someone to be a perfect moral idol, to be this representative of God on earth. That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. You're never going to find your party of one candidate who agrees with you on everything, who's a perfect moral paragon. It's never going to happen. So, with that in mind, we should achieve what is possible by picking the people who might be flawed but are the best option available, and voting for them and backing them. Now you're saying, but Dylan, that's not enough. That's not enough, Dylan. So you're just saying vote for people like Joe Biden and establishment candidates over the Republicans. Yes, that's the first part of what you should be doing. The second part of what you should be doing is participating in primaries, so hopefully next time you're never going to get the perfect candidate. Let me remind you, even people who thought Bernie was your near perfect candidate, I'm sure if we went through the record, we could find something you disagree with. Maybe you disagree with him voting for the war in Afghanistan. Maybe the intervention in Yugoslavia. Maybe you disagree with a vote here or there. Maybe you disagree with some of his record on gun control. But does that mean you throw him out? Of course, others would be much more flawed than Bernie. But does that mean you throw the opportunity to stop regression in this country or to slide us closer to progress? No, you need to compound that with other actions. Participation not only in the general elections, but in the primaries, union organizing, mutual aid to people on the ground, community building, working around, organizing around protest movements. It's one tool in a long list of tools. You're not voting for somebody to be your buddy. You're not voting for a romantic partner. You're not voting for your best friend. You're not voting for someone you're going to go on a romantic cruise with. You're voting for somebody who is supposed to achieve political gains or political goals. And if you do not vote or you don't participate in democracy, you are simply saying to the world and to me and to everyone, I'm not going to use the full capacity of my political strength, my political options. I would instead rather sit back here and purity test and shame people who are actually trying to make a difference. I don't have what it's necessary to suck in my stomach, bite my tongue, and do what at the end of the day is morally right. And you know what you can do? You can say, but Dylan, this politician did this thing. It's really bad. It's super bad. Really, really bad. Okay. Is it better than the other one? Well, looks like we found our decision. Looks like we found our choice. It's that simple. Does that mean you accept the status quo, whoever you picked represents, or whatever, everything that the person represents? No, it doesn't mean that. Again, it's one of multiple political tools. One of multiple. Anytime you look, let's do this on a geopolitical scale, since I'm the foreign policy person. I have a lot of problems with Joseph Stalin. I think hopefully everyone in chat has a problem with Joseph Stalin. Should I not have used the Soviet Union as a geopolitical ally to achieve a better world without Nazi Germany? I think everyone in their right mind would say we should. Now, obviously, I don't think anybody we're talking about right now is comparable to Joseph Stalin. But why shouldn't we work with politicians who are flawed to beat other politicians who are more flawed, and then use our other tools to strive for an even more perfect world? If you don't do this, and you're out here lecturing anybody else on how they need to be more effective in this and more effective in direct action, you are a huge, huge imbecile. And I mean that. Because you're saying, I don't like how effective you are in direct action. I don't like how effective you are in this area. I don't like how effective you are in this area. While at the same time saying, well, I don't need to be effective using this tool. I don't want to do it. This one makes me feel bad. This one doesn't give me the warm fuzzies. This one upsets me. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know politics was all sunshine and rainbows. Last time I checked, 1 in 4 children currently are facing food insecurity in this country. How about let's have a conversation about that and have warm fuzzies in our tummy? Oh, let's talk about the war in Yemen and have warm fuzzies in our tummy. Oh, let's talk about that. Let's have warm fuzzies in our tummy. Are you saying you would vote for the person? You would vote for the person who would do 3,000 drone strikes instead of 6,000 drone strikes? Yes. Because that means less damage. It doesn't end at that point, but yes, it means less damage. It's pretty simple math there. What's worse, 6,000 drone strikes? 3,000 drone strikes? Oh gosh, this is a hard balancing act here. What am I gonna choose? You know what, I'm not gonna participate. All drone strikes are bad and equally bad. I think it's pretty clear that if you have a stack of bodies on one side and a stack of bodies on the other side, and one stack of bodies is 10 feet high and the other is 1 foot high, and you said, which one would you rather have in your society? The vast majority of people would point towards the lower stack of bodies. Pretty simple. Also, stop your fake outrage when you work. This is something that's going to give me a lot of heat, what I'm about to say. Also, stop your fake outrage when activists work with people you don't like in pursuit of goals, like certain Senate elections that benefit working people. Yes, I'm talking about that Senate election. Yes, I'm talking about that person. If it helps achieve meaningful progress, then I will work with problematic streamers all the way up to Joe Manchin. I don't care if it offends you. I know these people aren't perfect. We're working with people that have ungodly amount of influence over public discourse, an ungodly amount of power over the world. There's no way anybody can get to these positions and be angels. That is impossible. It just isn't true. Anybody who participates in politics is someone who has declared to the world that, hello, I believe I have what is necessary to fix your problems. I'm the hero. It takes a certain amount of ego and a certain amount of characteristics about a human being to come out publicly and say that and then run for office. It does. To a certain extent, I am egotistical to think that one day I want to run for office because I think I have what it takes to make change. It does take an amount of ego. And to get to the levels we're talking about, it can take many times a certain amount of moral, what's the word? Moral problems. We'll just say that for now. But if me working with these people to achieve political goals can get me progress towards what I want, then why wouldn't I? I'm not declaring I'm this person, any individual person's best friend. I'm not declaring that I've endorsed everything they've ever done or ever said. I'm not declaring any of these things. All I'm declaring is that I would like to work with this person in pursuance of this goal. I don't care if it's Joe Manchin. I don't care if it's your most hated streamer. I don't care who it is. Look, if I can work with Rand Paul, someone who would gut these social programs that families across this whole country need to survive to end the war in Yemen or end our support for the war in Yemen, you know for sure I'm going to do that. For me not doing that, to say, well, I would never work with Rand Paul. I would never work with Rand Paul. That would just, do you know what he wants to do to the food stamps that people rely on? Oh, well, okay. You know, I'm sure those children in Yemen can really wait. They can wait for Mr. Perfect, Democratic, Socialist, Syndicalist, Maoist, Titoist, or whatever ideology you want to come by and assist you. I'm sure those children in Yemen can wait. I'm sure they can let a few 10,000 to 20,000 more go. Absolute dunderheads. And yes, I understand that many of you have personal moral quandaries with individuals and things that have affected you personally. Affected you personally that they have promoted or they have championed at times in history. And I know that's painful. I have had to make votes for people based on my personal history, with having to watch my mother rot due to her struggle with addiction and having her last conversation with me being, Dylan, I'm scared I'm going to lose my health insurance. Dylan, I'm scared I'm not going to have health insurance to cover this. Her last conversation with me being about how she's scared she wouldn't be able to pay for her treatment before she died. The last conversation is about those medical bills. And I look at a lot of politicians and I think, man, that person has been part of the system that has produced this. They have taken money from the people that has produced this. But if me voting for them or supporting them in this individual instance can mean getting closer to that world where that is not a necessary future, then I will bite my tongue and do what is necessary. Because my main objective is to make sure one day that isn't going to happen whatsoever. And I can't make that world come about by just not participating. What, Mike? Are you debating the Soviet Union and the Nazis in the chat, right? Soviet Union and the alliance against Hitler in the chat right now? Let's go. Okay. Oh, it's you in Peacecraft? Oh, of course it's Peacecraft. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. We are in a recession and a pandemic, all during a climate crisis. It is crisis upon crisis upon crisis. We don't have time to wait for your perfect candidate, party, or activist. We have the people around us right now, and we would put them to good use. I am not interested in joining your party of one. None of this means you cannot do direct action. You can do both, you dunderheads. Doing both direct action and voting is necessary for you to fully capitalize on your political activism, can volunteer at food banks, work with unions, and vote. Amazing, right? Anyone who is not doing all of these things and is trying to be a political actor in a political space is not fully using all the tools at their disposal. So a lot of the criticisms I would apply to people who don't vote but do direct action equally apply to the people who vote but don't do direct action. Now, of course, this changes depending on the level of political involvement you have. If you're just an everyday mom who just comes out and you know, due to her like 9 to 5 working hours, working 2 to 3 jobs, it's hard for you to do direct action. So you do as much as you can, which is in your case voting, or every once in a while donating to a food bank. Then I give you props. Of course, this applies at the end of the day to your amount of ability. For an example, let's say you're somebody who participates in direct action, but because of gerrymandering or a better example would be a horrible system when it comes to felons not being able to vote in this country, then that would be another exception to the rule. But these are exceptions to the rule. Throwing that out there. Yet those who talk of direct action and getting active or give you this commentary online seem to be those who do these things the least. No volunteering for food banks, voting in national and local elections, running for office, helping out at campaigns, etc. Okay, this is where I'm going to get really spicy. Charities are cool. I do look, I want to do eventually a charity stream on my stream. I don't know when I'm going to do it. Fundraising for candidates. That's cool. I think us as streamers could do a little bit more than that. I think we can do more. I think direct action isn't just putting this in the corner of your screen and saying, okay, that's, you know, I'm checking out now. I think you can go a little further than that. I'm not criticizing you for doing it. I'm just asking you all to examine if you can do more than just putting a counter in the middle of your stream. Okay? Maybe organize, trying to get people to join a certain organization or canvas in their community, giving people the resources to run for office, talking to people and doing long conversations about the vacancies on local city boards and how many of them could probably fill up those positions with not much difficulty. That many of them could be city board representatives, city board people on local boards, and it wouldn't be that difficult. I think going a little further on that would be good. But back to the point. I think a lot of people who argue for this, look, we need to do direct action, not this voting nonsense. I think a lot of it, when it comes to this, the people who talk of this but then end up not doing it whatsoever, even if they did do the direct action, they didn't do the voting, they would already not be using all the tools at their disposal. I think a lot of it is just a cover for doomerism and nihilism. This idea of like, yeah, well, I'm not voting because, you know, I'd rather do the direct action. And a lot of it just covers for, I'm not voting because we're never going to get to this thing that we want. We're never going to get to this. We're never going to get to that. I think a lot of it is a cover for that. Not everybody, but I think a lot of people just try to make up reasons for not voting, when really they should be, and they could be participating. Same goes for direct action, but they're just trying as the most desperate possible method to try to find a way to why they don't need to try, because it hurts or it's painful or it's discouraging. Of course it's discouraging. Being left wing in this country is constantly soul shattering. It is constantly soul shattering to see people in your community murdered in hate crimes, to see poverty, homelessness, a lack of health. It is constantly painful. But I think I would rather see the honesty about this hurts, my spirit's broken, rather than maybe we shouldn't participate. And the reason why we shouldn't participate is because direct action is more important. I think that just more of honesty on that front would be appreciated. And I see a lot of that right now, too, by the way. I see a lot of it right now. I don't know why everybody, is surprised. But yes, Biden is not Bernie Sanders. His picks are not all of the progressive picks I would have picked. I think his one pick for National Interior was really good. The Native American woman, her name leaves me. But a lot of his picks are not great. A lot of him walking back on a few of his things are not things that I appreciate. But that lack of achieving full potential is not a reason for you to just check out. It's not. People have been here a long time before you. They felt that pain of having these failures or this lack of achieving our full potential a long time before you. A long time before me. And they have kept pushing on. You know what hurts? Take a little bit of time off, and if you know what, if you need to check out, I would discourage it, but you're a free human being, but don't use that to spread Doomerism about everybody else needs to check out and we're all screwed, and you know what, fuck it. If you want to put that Doomerism on yourself, okay, don't promote that. In fact, the ones that always spitball, those who are the ones, in fact, the ones that always spitball those who are doing this are the ones doing it the least, or they are the worst organizers on the planet who cannot win an election where only their mom voted. Stop kneecapping those who are actually trying. I don't care if you don't like the person. I don't care if they're not great friends with you. I don't care about if they didn't do it perfectly. And you know what? You can be critical of this is how we need to improve here, here, and here. But when we see people on this platform engage politically for things that are going to be benefits for us, like, say, electing Ossoff or electing Warnock, that's a good thing. Even if it's just the start of that trend. Just starting that trend alone is a good thing. And you know what? You don't need to be friends with people. You don't need to like everything they've ever done in their past. And a lot of the things people have done in their past are bad. They're not good. In fact, many of times it will be gross to you. Many times it's gross to me. But somehow my opinion on their past, or my opinion on this characteristic or things they've done are supposed to overwhelm my desire for a $15 minimum wage, my desire for universal health care, my desire to end the death penalty, my desire to end our involvement in the Yemeni civil war, my desire for any of these things are supposed to be overwhelmed by my dislike or distrust for any particular person. I'm not even saying I dislike or distrust any particular person. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if that was the scenario, as it is for many people, is that what that's supposed to be my reaction? I will work with Joe Manchin to achieve these goals. I will work with Nancy Pelosi. I'll work with AOC. I'll work with anybody I can. I'll work with Rand Paul. I'll work with Mitt Romney. I would have worked with John McCain. I would have worked with all of them if in certain scenarios we could get progress on the goals I cared about. You know what? And you're thinking, Dylan, how could you have possibly worked in these people? Easy. I fight John McCain on his tax policies, and then I shake his hand and say, let's end torture. I fight Justin Amash on his tax policies, then I shake his hand and say, let's work together on police reform. I fight Joe Manchin on his opinions on marijuana legalization, then shake his hand and say, let's work towards this or that issue. It's not difficult. And the same thing applies to people who are online problematic and are trying to push us in the correct direction politically in certain scenarios. I'm not going to throw out the opportunity just because they have done a bad thing in the past. Why would I? Look, and all the people I called out in this thread, all the actual people that I named, I would work with all of them if given the opportunity, if it got us to that goal. I have had people in my political career walk up to me and say, Dylan, you're just a stupid kid. You'll never do this in politics, never do that in politics. They have spit on me and tried to undermine me the whole way. Led campaigns against me when it came to campaigns I worked on before, who have called in to city council meetings to stomp on the things I'm trying to get through onto the city council and city charter changes. All of them I'd work with if it meant I could achieve these goals. I got into politics for progress. I didn't get into it for revenge or purity. I didn't get into politics to feel good. I didn't get into politics to make friends. But it seems like a lot of people did. A lot of them want to feel good about themselves. Make friends who also feel good about themselves and a part of their party or one, wearing their political ideologies like it's a fad. That isn't politics. It's a club. Also, I'm sure reading this right now is, oh, Dylan is talking about me, not them, or, well, it's supposed to say Dylan is talking about them, not me. Really think about it if I am not talking about you before you come to any conclusions. Armchair activism out and stay out. After this, and then I clarify my position on working with problematic extremists and politicians. You work towards goals that you agree with, obviously not towards their policy of puppy kicking or whatever. Then I say I might start adding people. And I say, stop liking this tweet. I might just start adding your favorite streamer. And then I say I might just add people who are insufferable to work with. And then I started. Then I started. Okay, I've gone on for a little bit. Let's see what's going on in chat. Can you give an allies denying the what? Why are you guys talking about the Holocaust? Chat, let's not. This is why are we. I was willing to work with Joe Manchin. What about Joe Apartment? Even Joe Apartment. I was just teaching people some basic history. Seems like they are lacking it. Seem to think Churchill was a good guy, etc. It's weird how people think about like historical figures as if they're good or bad. It's really like you need to either have your heroes or your villains. Most of these historical figures, factions, empires, or whatever, you have to grade them kind of like on a relative scale to the other options available at the time. You can't apply, of course you should apply modern morals to like compare to like what you should do today, but I think this classification of people as either good or bad just has like these kind of people want their analysis to be extremely simplistic. For example, Churchill helped fight the Nazis. That's a good. I don't think anybody here would think that's a bad, or at least I hope so. Now, I also think the starvation and colonization of India was pretty yikesies. Pretty bad. Bad Churchill. I'm gonna wind up the newspaper. Bad Churchill. Right? And I think you could say, see, now there's some complexity to the situation. Then you kind of add up the things on the good things he did to society and the bad things he did to society. And if the bad outweighs the good, then you usually don't build the statue. That's how I usually look at it. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So I'm about to call out specific people. So I think it should probably get something to drink first. And wow, everybody's really tuning in to just see, I brought on Mike Gravel and I had like 60 viewers. I talk about AngieSpeaks and a few other people, 183. Chatters are, once again, bunch of dunderheads in chat. I'll be right back. Guys are still on the stuff in chat about the USSR and Stalin. I just find it interesting that people constantly talk about Stalin when the USSR is the part that defeated the Nazi state. Well, I said they're one of the part of the reason they were defeated, not the sole reason. I mean, for example, like when the Nazis had them on the back foot in what was it, 1941, the Soviet Union was propped up by Soviet and British guns when the vast majority of their factories were being taken over by the Nazi regime and they didn't have the, production capability. And of course, the Second Front was integral in what Stalin needed for him to do his massive offensive. Obviously, with more time, he could have done it, but it would have been much more disastrous. Obviously, if the Nazis took over Great Britain and had a successful landing, or if their if Hitler just would have concentrated on RAF and didn't start doing city bombardments after the British bombed Berlin, then honestly, there's a high probability that the British would have caved if Churchill lost confidence and if people lost confidence in Churchill. Anyway, and then if the Nazis also have control of Britain against the Soviet Union, that's a whole other scenario. I'm positive, of course, their colonized territories would not follow. And why am I talking about this right now? Oh my gosh, Dylan, I know that this topic matters a lot, and understandably hit a nerve to you, but this is very sound perspective that honestly has me kind of jazzed and getting involved right now. Well articulated. Hey Tabby, if anybody takes anything from this discussion I'm saying right now, is forget about they couldn't invade across the channel. Well, the thing is, we're talking about the Navy, but the disabling the Air Force would have opened up many more possibilities for the Nazis to actually conduct operations over the, well, obviously with the anyway, this is a really deep conversation. But anyway, if anybody takes anything from what I'm trying to say here, is screw these people, these streamers, man. Even screw me, man. I'm sure I've probably done some things on this platform that were bad. And I'm probably sure I messed up a few times. I can't think of any off the back of my head, but I'm sure I have. Screw all of it, man. Get involved in your local city. Think about your neighbor. Think about this. 1 in 4 children right now, due to this crisis, are experiencing food insecurity. They don't know if they're going to be able to eat in the wealthiest country on this planet. Get involved in a local food bank. Check if your local city boards, if there's any openings. A lot of times, all you need to do is fill out a one-page application, and you'll get a city board position. And on those city boards, the amount of activism you can do is absolutely astounding, man. Get involved with your local politicians. Get involved in city council runs, mayoral runs, county council, state delegates, state senators. Get involved in this stuff. That local level stuff, anybody can do it. And I do mean anybody can do it, as long as they don't act like the dunderheads I was talking about earlier. I really do mean it. And if you don't believe you can do it, or you think you're not smart enough to do it, or you don't think you're determined enough to do it, or it's hard or it's socially awkward for you, and if no one has told you today that they believe in you, or that you don't believe in yourself, then goddamn it, I believe you can do it. I genuinely believe you can do it. You have put enough time, a lot of you, listening to these political streams, trying to do your research online, trying to stay up to date. In these last 4 years, it has been a roller coaster for anybody. So if you need anybody to tell you that they believe in you, goddamn it, I believe in you. And that's something I wish I heard a lot more. So I'm saying it to you, since I didn't get to hear it a lot more. I believe in you. I think you can do it. You can do something in your local community. You can leave that impact, since one day when you're dead, when you're gone, you leave that impact. Gonna affect people you don't know how in your local community going down the line. You can Pokemon go to the polls. Imagine not having any local victories in politics. Yeah, true, man. I mean, I organized a mayoral race and got 73% of the vote in a 3-way race. You know, I was a campaign manager there. We can look at that article, by the way. See if I can find that. Here it is. Right here, look. Incumbents returned for office at the College Park City Park election. College Park Mayor Patrick Rohan celebrates the results of the city election with campaign manager Dylan Burns on November 5th. Ah, man. Good times. Oh, man. I was so happy. I was so happy. Yo. We were in this city election. We were running against people a person who was literally running because they didn't like the fact that the person I managed, Patrick Rohan, who, by the way, this man means so much to me. I actually cannot express how much this man means to me. He was the first person in the world that I told that I liked men, and he was the person who let me kind of know that I could like men and I could succeed in politics. And I unironically called him today to thank him again for that. But when we were running this race, there was somebody who ran against him. There was 2 people. One of them, I don't have really negative things to say about, but I think they didn't offer enough to the city, people to make a case for them being elected. So we ended up with 73% of the vote in a 3-way race. And the other person ran simply because he was gay and didn't want to have a gay mayor. and was outing city officials on the campaign trail. It was absolutely disgusting. And you know, it's in the same county that two black trans women were murdered in last year. And I remember going to that meeting about that and just seeing like the lack of trust from the local community in the police, the rejection of some certain isolated bigots in our community of putting up the rainbow flag every year, the certain city council members on our current city council not coming on and signing on to us standing up for a lawsuit to make sure that gay people could access adoption centers that took money from the state, public funds, money they paid into tax-wise, being given to these adoption centers, which then don't let gay people access them. And we were voting in favor, we were trying to sign on in favor of those families onto this lawsuit so they could have the benefit of their tax dollars and it being treated like a decent human being. And we still have city council members on our current city council when we have a gay fucking mayor against that. I went there and I spoke up against it, and I remember saying, and some of those people I'm supposed to strategically be making a friendly relations with, you know, being nice, shaking hands, trying to rub elbows, trying to get like political favoritism. I remember just saying, like, I expect a unanimous vote on this because I know that you're all decent human beings, and voting against this would show otherwise. And I would be deeply disappointed. I was looking them in the eye too, because I knew exactly who were the people who were going to vote against it. And you know what? They ended up voting against it. Huge surprise. One woman surprised me though. I didn't expect her to do it. The most intellectually hollow person I ever spoke to was AngieSpeaks. This is 100% true. If any of you, it said got servers in New York, 30 days. I no longer care. I just paid $79 for 3 years, okay? So I'll be fine for the next 3 years. I'll just try to see if it's a tax write-off, okay? I'll try to take extra hours at work. I'll try to fix it. Try to make rent in the next 2 days, okay? Y'all good? Y'all understand the plan? Oh, man. Well, it always gotta be it's always gotta be something, man. Just trying to help her. Dude, it is operational expense, yeah. Man, I've been having a fucking shitty week, man. I hate this time of the year. I hate this time of the year. I genuinely do. I despise it. And I just found out my godmother's in hospice, and it's a shit week, man. Whatever. Let's get back into it. The most intellectually hollow person I ever spoke to was AngieSpeaks. not only did she not have anything of value to say on the burning a bus topic, which she joined on the side of before renouncing it, she somehow had nothing to say, but also took up the most time. If you look up my name on Twitter, I should be able to find this. I have the clip of how many times she said the word neoliberal establishment. And she said it, I think a grand total of, what was it, like 30 times? 1 second. Angie. What was it? AngieSpeaks. Fuck. Do I have to do @speaks Angie? I gotta find the neoliberal establishment clip. Where was it? The neoliberal establishment. Well, I can't find it for whatever reason, but she said neoliberal like 30 times in this debate pointlessly and threw it out there, and it was to the point of like basically she believed that Biden could not win the election. So obviously she's wrong on that part. She's wrong on that point.
JJY $80. We need you around.
Fucking appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate. Not a man. So sorry. Sorry. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
A curd is a curd.
Thanks, Polar Bunny. Thanks everybody who gifted earlier when everything was shit. I appreciate that. Ooh, man, someone's cutting onions.
A curd is a
Someone's cutting onions. Someone's cutting onions. Maybe if I message LSP, 1 second. I'll get the video about AngieSpeaks. But basically, let me get back into it because so I don't get tied up in my own shit, my own emotions, okay? But thank you so much, Polar Bunny. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so... okay. So... AngieSpeaks, the reason why this conversation particularly irked me is that she had the least amount to say, and she compensated for that by saying the most. I don't think it makes you look terrible or the worst person on the planet to just wait to say something that's relevant, or if you don't know a lot about a topic, to just sit it out. AngieSpeaks, somebody who was telling people that Biden can't win, which obviously was wrong in his face, who then somewhat abandoned that position later to say, I think she probably won't win, and talked about the neoliberal establishment and said that word like 1,000,000 times in the debate to the point where the word meant nothing anymore, and it felt like she was just using it as a cudgel, as something to just keep her above ground, like a life raft. Above water, that is. I don't think it's that difficult, and I think this is something that streamers this is the empty political commentary I was talking about, where you feel like you just gotta say something. You feel like no matter what the topic is, you gotta have an opinion, or you gotta say something. You just gotta open your mouth about anything. If someone says, Dylan, what do you think about the Venezuelan Venezuelan constitutional reform 8x7? I'm just making something up. You know what I'll say? Even though I'm supposed to be the foreign policy guy, I don't know. Anytime someone asks me something about Africa, usually, or South America, I usually say I don't know much about South American politics, and we'll move on. Because if I was to try to throw myself around in that arena without doing anything, all I would do is spread disinformation, bullshit my way through it, or just just shoot out hot air. And I think when it came to this topic, AngieSpeaks was not ready for the polling data that countered what she was saying, and she was not ready for the general view of Joe Biden. She was not ready for this election, obviously, and she didn't know that much about American politics, it seemed like. But I guess she wanted to just be in the conversation for whatever reason with the empty political commentary. Empty political commentary. And the thing that really gets me about it.
A curd is a curd.
MRG2EK $5. It's not much, but here you go, my dude.
Hey,
Sorry, you're having a rough week. We're here for you, my dude. Thank you for everything you're doing. Stay strong.
Thanks. That's my editor, by the way. He's a wonderful human being. I mess with him all the time, but I really do love the guy. I mean that. But what was I saying? The empty political commentary aggravated me so much. And that's what really irked me about her. Oh, here's the video. I found it. I found the video. The neoliberal consensus. Oh, here it is. Great video by my friend LSP. Great video.
How many times can AngieSpeaks talk about the neoliberal consensus in this debate?
Let's find out. 1, 2.
But neoliberalism is the overarching issue that people are sick of and concerned about. Trump is sort of like an uglier face of neoliberalism, and I think Trump is a continuation of neoliberalism. I think that there's a ruling ideology, and that ideology is that of neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is the real enemy here. The problem is neoliberalism, and they're both neoliberal candidates. There are different forms of neoliberalism, me pointing out the clear fact that people are dissatisfied with the neoliberal status quo. People are tired of the neoliberal consensus. People are tired of these neoliberal candidates. I have a problem with the idea that me critiquing the neoliberal establishment, there's a long-standing problem with the neoliberal consensus in terms of like the neoliberal consensus that caused these failures. Deeper issues in terms of the neoliberal consensus, people are distrustful of these neoliberal candidates. Another 8 years of a neoliberal...
Did they ask her to define neoliberalism? She thought Trump, Reagan, Clinton, basically everyone was just all the same neoliberal, was all just neoliberalism. The neoliberal establishment.
O_lane $10. Here's some money from the neoliberal establishment.
Hey, I'm always ready to take money from the neoliberal establishment. From the globalist. Hey, it seems that the VPN is working though. I just want to throw that out there. This is actually super fucking helpful. So I'm really happy this is working. It seems to be working. This is great. But the thing is, so we're talking about, like, you can't say Trump just represents this new faction of the neoliberal establishment when he was one of the biggest immigration hawks you could possibly think of. You saw his hawk, like his throwing out of the TPP, his trade war with China. Like, you can't just come out and say, yes, this is the same as the Clinton and Reagan era conservative levels of economic belief. You just can't. If that's all, if neoliberal just covers all of this, and all of this is neoliberalism, all of these people are neoliberals, and all of it is just the same neoliberal establishment, then the word neoliberal is pointless and it should be retired.
Technocrat in the White, because people were tired of that neoliberal consensus. Sessions that these neoliberals make, especially on issues of idea break from, which is the neoliberal consensus. Shove more neoliberal consensus in front of people's faces, have been dissatisfied with in the past, which is the neoliberal consensus. People are tired of seeing these neoliberal candidates. The clear dissatisfaction with the neoliberal status quo indicates that people don't want to see another neoliberal candidate.
100 times.
Yeah, she was a little much. Not to mention the fact is she got into the debate on the pro Bernie or bust side, and she came into the debate, which was hosted by Pixie, saying that she was on the pro Bernie or bust side, but then abandoned the position immediately when given pressure. When I like start talking to her about Yemen, let's actually go and review this conversation. Oh man, this conversation like completely like undercut like, oh my gosh, my thoughts on Angie Speaks, Dylan Burns. Here we go.
It's like,
Well, no. Almost 50% support. Biden
is a curd.
still won in a general election matchup. And that general in American politics, Biden is historically extremely popular. I mean, I don't see how it's really the same at all.
I disagree.
A curd is a
Joe
curd.
Biden is
Nomadic
also, like
Darling,
you just said,
$10 first live stream. Found
Hey!
you through the hippy dippy with Vosh and your VODs. Sorry, you're having such a bad week. Hope it gets better.
Thank you so much for the 10 buckaroonies, buddy. I really appreciate that. I will try to have a better week. I will just talk to the neoliberal consensus, the neoliberal establishment, and hopefully they will, like, you know, grease up the gears for me a little bit and help me out here, you know? I really appreciate that, buddy. But for real though, I really appreciate it. Where is God? This isn't time stamped, but there's got to be at some point when I bring up Yemen in the discussion, and instead of like confronting the fact that Biden might actually be better than Trump massively, she just pivots to, well, then Biden wouldn't win, and then she pivots away from the whole conversation, which is endless pivoting and signaling to this big specter of the neoliberal establishment. Honestly, I love it. My most aggravating Bernie or Bust debate yet, featuring 90% AngieSpeaks.
A curd.
You know what? Her name is accurate though. She sure is AngieSpeaks, but I think the problem is Angie speaks too much. I think that's the problem. It should be Angie listens. I mean, really. Hey, After Shark, thank you for gifting a sub to Nomadic Darling. You can search your transcripts. Oh, that might actually work. How do I search by transcripts? I would love to find a Yemen section because because she actually said that like the best example of like how Trump and Biden are the same as foreign policy, which every time I've said this, it's like a gold mine for me of memes and of memeing, because it's just like such an easy thing to just point at and laugh at its face. Hey, Indie Dog, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub and joining our lovely community. Right click the 3 dots next to the save. Oh, open transcript. Okay. Ooh, how do I search? Do I just... Yemen? Oh, okay. So I actually have to go back a little bit. So it was 11 something. So we'll just go back to the 11 point mark.
It's
Obama
like a rare
was way
thing that
more.
under Obama, it's like it's expanded like unprecedented levels under Trump. This is like not...
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The position, it was an acceleration. Trump is an acceleration of the things that were already there. Obama started off those trends, and Trump followed them. That's the whole point. It's not as if Trump is an anomaly and he just pulled these things out of thin air. There are continuations of policies that were already on the ground. And Obama was more draconian in his immigration policy than even his predecessor. So
Dylan, do you want to say
I wanted to say my thing is when I work in foreign policy, I think Biden and Trump couldn't be further apart when it comes to the foreign policy aspects and how the level of experience, their positions on certain issues around the world. Even when it comes to immigration, they couldn't be further apart specifically. I'll just start with a few key things. I'm not really much into ideology specifically. I'm not much of an ideologue personally. My main philosophy is how to help the most people, and that's what I believe in. So we can go into certain conflicts. A good example would be Yemen, where one of the worst slaughters in the world, some classify it as a genocide. Every day I start to lean closer to that definition of what's going on there. I'll just give you one statistic to show the severity of the situation. As of 2018, 85,000 children under the age of 5 starved to death due to the Saudi blockade there. There was bipartisan legislation passed by leading by Bernie, and it was bipartisan legislation. Some Republicans led on this as well. It passed the House and the Senate, and it was vetoed by President Trump. Biden not only has pledged to support it, but said it would be one of his priorities. And he said that, and plus the fact that it's bipartisan legislation, and the Democrats are leading on that, definitely after the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. That is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of lives that could be saved by us not supporting the Saudi war in Yemen with arms. Another thing would be Trump's terrible pullout of Syria, which was the pulling out of 50 to 150 troops led to the displacement of over 300,000 people from northeastern Syria, led to politicians being pulled out of their cars and beheaded. A 14-year-old boy recently was beheaded in Afrin, and his body stacked, and his head stacked next to his body. There has been, of course, another instance of violence that is going on there is that people have been shot and killed. They would take their bodies and they'll sell it back to their families for profit.
What U.S. president hasn't been a warmonger abroad or hasn't had awful catastrophes happen on the world stage?
See, the argument shifts from like they're basically the same here to, well, I mean, they all do the bad in the war. But that was never the argument, is that they all do the bad. Again, if you're looking for your party of one, which I was talking about earlier in the thread, you're not gonna find it. It doesn't exist. You just gotta get what closest aligns to you and the best available option, which in this case was obviously Joe Biden.
Obama's drone policy, even at home, Obama's the way that Obama dealt with the Flint, Michigan crisis, you know, by going there and telling the residents.
Only response she gave to the huge gains we could have on human rights in Syria, on saving lives in Syria and saving lives in Yemen, was, well, all the presidents are warmongers. Okay, well then put Jimmy Carter next to next to Donald Trump. Put Jimmy Carter next to Kevin Castley. Put Jimmy Carter next to John Bolton. Guess who cares? We can't put down Jimmy Carter. I mean, you know, he worked with the CIA over here, warmongers. Obviously, we gotta choose what's relatively the best option.
That the water was like okay to drink.
Well,
you know, of course there are things that happen on the international stage like under Trump, but there are also things that are terrible that happened on the international stage under candidates that are closer to the.
Why do I look so much younger in this? It's been 1 year since this. Wait, how long has this conversation been? It has been not even a year. And why do I look so much younger in this? I look so much younger. Has Twitch politics really gave me that bad of a hand? Have you guys stressed me out this much?
Person who you want in the White House.
Well, of course. I mean, this is going to happen under any U.S. president. If I was in there, if any of us were in there, there's going to be horrible things that happen abroad that sometimes we're not going to be able to avoid, and some presidents will worsen that situation.
Able to avoid, not necessarily able to avoid. Like Obama escalated, and the only reason I'm talking over you is because I don't have a lot of time. I have to go soon. It's like very late.
Says this, she's here for the whole fucking show. This was 14:28. The only reason I took over you is because I'm not going to be here. She's here for 3 hours and wastes everyone's time. She didn't have to leave soon. She was here for the whole show. She just said that so she could talk over me. Horribly unproductive. Has nothing to say but wants to talk over everyone else.
But Obama escalated a lot of conflict abroad as well. Mm-hmm. Like, didn't get in there and de-escalate.
That's
things.
True, but
and
that's
the idea that Joe Biden is going to go
that's true,
there and de-escalate
But Biden's foreign policy is different than Obama's foreign policy. He was vice president. For example, he disagreed with Obama intervening in Yemen. He thought it was a bad idea. He talked about this at the Council of Foreign Relations before. And when we talk about foreign policy, actually a lie. I meant to say Libya here. policy. Biden's also going to make foreign policy decisions I disagree with, right? He's definitely going to. I know this. But the amount of harm that's going to be done in the world comparatively when it comes to America's stance, definitely America's the biggest empire in the world. We need to definitely think about foreign policy in this perspective. More lives and more people are going to survive and live under a Biden presidency than under a Trump presidency. We could see a perfect example would be the Iran deal, which was a landmark piece of legislation that I didn't even believe was going to happen. I thought it was going to fail. But Biden and Obama did like gymnastics to get that through, along with Iranian moderates within Oman, and he got that through. Trump throws that out, then kills Soleimani, escalates in the region. Now missile strikes have escalated. Killing Soleimani has entrenched the Iranian theocracy, and it's made the situation 10 times worse. I know Biden wouldn't have done that because that was an option. You know, the best thing about this debate and this conversation, the best thing in these debates and conversations, the best impact you can have, and you know you're doing well, is if people can remember what you said, but not even remember what your opponent said. I currently cannot remember what Angie said 30 seconds ago because now I'm analyzing all this actual facts and data putting forward and not just vaguely saying, well, Obama escalated. Am I going to point to a specific thing? No, but Obama escalated and they're all like warmongers. And then I respond with specific. And this shows how empty her analysis was. Do you know what she could have just said? You know, I didn't really take foreign policy into the consideration here, but did you consider this factor? But she didn't. Anyway, do you guys want to... I gotta use the bathroom, I gotta use the bathroom, so I'll let you guys watch a little bit more of this, and we're gonna continue with the thread. On the table for the Obama presidency, and in Biden's foreign policy view would have not done anything near to that. He's very proud of the Iran deal. Then you add the slaughter in northeastern Syria, the general lack of knowledge when Mr. Trump calls the president of Kurdistan Mr. Kurd and confuses them with the Syrian Kurds. They're not even near the same level when it comes to foreign policy. I mean, the amount of lives that would be lost under another term of Trump when it comes to the world stage compared to the Biden, it's laughable to say they're anywhere near the same.
Well, I disagree with you, but because I don't have a lot of time, regardless,
I'm sorry. I don't. Again, she says this, but she was here for the entirety 3 hours. This is 14 minutes in. She's in for the whole 3 hours. The whole 3 hours. The whole 3 hours she was there. She said, I disagree with you. I won't respond because I don't have time. She just didn't want to answer it because she didn't have an answer. She could have just said, I don't know, or I hadn't considered that, and I would have respected her. I do this all the time. Destiny asked me once, like, a question about oil contracts in Syria or in Iraq, and I said, I don't know, because I'm not an energy expert. I don't know much about energy. It's not difficult. It's not difficult to just say, I don't know.
I don't think that Biden is going to win. And like I said in the beginning,
she doesn't think Biden's gonna win. All of this is pointless because Biden, and I don't need to respond because Biden isn't gonna win. 1 second. Let me just. Who's current president-elect of the Somebody should really. Somebody should check this. This can't be right. This. What? This... I believe that says Joe Biden, but, I mean, he was part of the neoliberal establishment. So that can't be him. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. I gotta use the bathroom.
I think that it comes down to the fact that people are tired of the neoliberal consensus.
Is a Kurd.
And I also think that the failures of the Democratic establishment to notate that is what's going to make them lose a second time round. It doesn't really matter what you say in terms of the differences between their policies. The fact of the matter is Trump speaks to more people. He has more resonance in the public than someone like Biden does. In 2016,
I'm sorry, this is just irrelevant.
In 2016, it's not irrelevant. In 2016, Hillary Clinton lost to Trump. She lost to Trump.
We're not debating whether he wins or not. We're debating whether we should vote for him. And
well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that there's going to be enough support garnered. Like, I don't care about whether people decide.
There was actually.
That's my point.
There was a poll released today, which showed something amazing to me. It showed.
I've also seen quite a few polls.
Yeah, but this poll's a little
And-
different because it polled something different. It asks just specifically, do you like Biden? And this was a KOS poll, and it was just one, so I won't use it for a general trend, but I think it was interesting. And it actually said more people disliked Biden than Trump. And I said, oh, that's not good. But then I looked at the next thing, and even with it said 36% people don't like Biden, over 60% hate him. Even with that, and with in this poll, Trump having almost 50% support, Biden still won in a general election matchup in that same poll. So even when more people hate Biden, they still turned out to vote for him.
I don't think it's about likability at the end.
Man, God, it hurts. The thing is, the thing that, again, this was the empty political rhetoric. I think we're getting the idea of what I'm trying to criticize on Twitch, that everybody thinks they need to throw themselves into discussions they don't know a ton about. Okay? Do we all get what I'm trying to get out here? We all good? Okay. Again, in this conversation, it should have been a less of Angie speaks and more of Angie listens. Wonderful. Okay. Where were we? Here we were. Oh, and she also blocked me. I don't remember what for. I think it might have just been after the discussion, or I don't know. I'm currently blocked. So I don't know why, but I'm blocked, and part of the reason why it was so easy to say this. Kiara Husk, this is an old thing that happened. Kiara Husk, I was on a early Chud Night podcast, which is a podcast I ended up buying out and closing down and absorbing into the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. Yeah, I'm like the Vince McMahon. I'm taking out the independent circuit so I can have the world debate entertainment industry. Okay, but back a while ago, Kiara Husk came onto a roundtable where basically I just opened up saying, like, you know what, people should vote for Biden for this, and that reason, right? And she comes out calling me a bootlicker, and it just all goes downhill from there, right? And basically, this was a person saying I wanted to vote for Joe Biden because I think it would save more lives. She called me a bootlicker. And the reason why I call her an armchair activist is because she is not using, number one, she's commentating on another country and advising people to not participate in those elections, or it's bad to. Or she said, that people shouldn't go out to vote for Joe Biden, and call people who go do it bootlickers. That's obviously bad. You are quite literally encouraging, not only is she an armchair activist in that perspective, she is encouraging actively armchair activism. Even if she does direct action, by not using all the tools at your disposal, to a certain extent you are armchair activisting when it comes to these issues. She was willing to deal with the consequences of more people losing healthcare. Oh, wait. Oh, this clip is so gold. I remember this.
Familiar with what the stress risks are. Please explain to me how they're worse than it.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, because in the end the stress risks are not really better than the fascist side of the NSDAP was.
My entire position is I will vote for the least bad option. So if I don't know which is the least bad
based Scrub King
option, it's not exactly a fair hypothetical, is it?
That's the thing.
Jump in real quick.
What are you talking about? That's the thing. Hey, would you rather have a Gnizzledorf or a fucking full poo 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 poo? Like,
it's so fucking good. It's so good. I recently asked him to come on another roundtable, but he apparently he's done with politics, which I honestly. I know he's never been hugely engaged in it anyway. It's no surprise to me. I hope I can still make content with him outside of it. I hope I can still make content with him outside of that. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Fucking poo 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 poo. What is LSP sending me now? What is this? What is this? Left libs, rich people just stop choosing to be greedy. Right libs, poor people just stop choosing to be poor. Fascist black people just stop. Oh wait, faster actually less ridiculous than libs. Wow. Is Trump winning a desirable outcome for me? No. But will it be hilarious / give me pleasure to watch the liberal establishment score an own goal? Hell yes. That's not my doing. If Trump wins, the liberal establishment has nobody to blame but this. Jesus. Okay, that's enough of that. I don't need to have a aneurysm on stream, okay? I don't need to have an aneurysm on stream. I'd rather not. Anyway, that's my problem with Kiara Husk. And also, she really just could not deal with me criticizing the IWW, otherwise known as the International Workers of the World, okay? Go further. Okay, you say... I'm missing the Kiara Husk part? Fine. Where is it? You said it was 27 seconds in?
Let's say Hitler, you're in the US, and Hitler is running for president, and you have Joe Biden going against Hitler.
Probably not, no. I don't vote for a big party in Germany. I vote for a smaller party. I support a smaller party.
But are liberal... So you'd have Joe Biden versus Hitler, and you'd end up throwing your vote behind Jill Stein. It's just so ridiculous. That's why, because this is another thing. She's also just not willing to, like, bite, like, you know, do what it takes to be politically effective. She's not willing to. She was the gold mine of purity testing, the most pure form of it. If I snorted a line of Kiara, whatever Kiara Husk was on, like it would be impossible for me to physically vote effectively. I would end up writing in like socialist politicians who have been dead for 30 years. Oh, this one is the only one righty I brought. Oh no, I brought up two righties. DroneTek. And the DroneTek thing, this is actually a private DM conversation. But basically, I was just working one day, and he DM'd me and asked me about what I thought about the Russia gate thing. And I was just like, well, I think that Russia obviously, you know, spread disinformation purposefully to help have influence over the election. And he just wouldn't accept my answer and just kept pressuring me. And it felt like he was like, I thought you were one of the good ones. And he was purity testing me as like I thought, like, shouldn't he know that I'm probably gonna disagree with him on this? And so I don't know why he was purity testing me with like, I thought you were normalish, so I wanted to get something from a normalish perspective, but your hypocrisy. And he just DMs me out. This is out of the cold. This isn't in public. This isn't in private. This is just behind closed door purity testing to see if I can be good friends with the righty. And then he ended up like saying, I'm just trying to get attention, which I don't fucking know, man. Anyway, I thought it was stupid. I thought it was stupid as all hell that he did it. Anyway, that's that. His whole, like, behind closed doors purity testing. There's a lot. The amount of people I could say who have acted unprofessional behind closed doors is astronomical. When I ended up banning Tiberius from the show for his, like, no-show, it was like the end of a long slope of people constantly screwing over the Hippy Dippy podcast behind the scenes. And it was the end of that slope where I was just like, no, if you screw me over now, I'd rather the Hippy Dippy podcast not exist than have to put up with all of you. Because my independent content, as I'm seeing right now, still gets like people somewhat pay attention to it. Is it 300 views? Is it 500 views? No, it isn't. But this, at least, I'm not going to have an aneurysm trying to herd these bunch of cats, okay? Okay. Next one is Redneq. This one's hilarious because I said, don't get me started on trying to have a working relationship with Redneq. Basically, what I'm saying here is it's very difficult to work with the guy. Not that I won't work with him, but it's always difficult. And I say, hilariously, out of the people listed, easiest to deal with mentally. Because Redneq's cut and dry. Redneq's cut and dry, right? Redneq, I know the type of person he is. He's gonna fuck around in that area. And I know what to somewhat expect with Redneq. With the rest of these people, it's gaslighting and kind of like sneaky. Like Redneq, you see what you get. And so that's when I said he's the easiest to deal with mentally. But it wasn't really a compliment, as more of like, out of the people listed here of people who are difficult to work with or problematic, he's the easiest for me to like deal with, and it's probably one of the reasons why I still associate with him. And it was taken as a compliment, which it wasn't meant as a compliment, but maybe, you know, to each his own. Because you can see, what did I do now? He was saying good things, and then I like, no, let me clarify. He's the easiest to deal with out of the list. And then he goes into this thing. This has been angering me actually legitimately. This has gone past the troll. So Raphael Warnock has this old footage released where he had a dispute with his wife, and the police came, and she said to police that while he was having a dispute with her about like taking the kids home for, like, they have split custody, I assume, while doing that and while driving away, that his tire ran over her foot. And this is testimony from her, and then the doctors come in and examine the situation, and they find no evidence of this happening to her foot, right? This is what I know about the situation. And so he takes that, and so every time, on any time I mention I'm going down to Georgia, he's like, stop supporting a wife beater. And look, this is always the closest I don't block a lot of people, but this is the closest I've gotten to blocking Redneq. This is absolutely the closest I've gotten to that with this one, because it's a big stretch from possibly ran over foot, which medical evidence contradicts, to beat his wife. Would that even be a loss? You'd be surprised how difficult it is to get conservatives to come on sometimes. It can be difficult. You need to consistently make them look like they're getting a fair shake. But he'll say, you know, it was a meme or whatever, and I mean, I don't think it was a funny meme. And then I say this. And this right here, I call out something that happened a while ago, which is this is the biggest purity testing on the planet, which basically, if you see my background, let's go to source cam, there's an American flag in the background. Why do I have an American flag? Because I love my country. Is that a difficult thing? I love my country. And I like America. Right? I like my country. I mean, hashtag canceled. Somebody called Pinko the Bear, who I'd never interacted with months ago, he like had clips come up where he was like, I can't, this so-called like leftist Dylan Burns, who's apparently like fighting fascism but has the American flag in the background. And eventually he deleted the clips because I guess he like saw how stupid that statement was or what, but he never apologized, never said like, maybe I should have taken it back. Nothing like that ever happened. And then Carpe was backing him up. And I called it purity testing to the max because it is purity testing to the max. Oh, by the way, I went on to Pinko the Bear's stream when I put this out to see if he was like checking out the tweet, and he was watching Gray Zone. So I mean, you know, it's par for the course. And then this guy gets in an argument with me about me carrying the logo of Empire. And so let's go back and forth on this for a little bit. 2 minutes worth of Pinko stream and a couple of comments, clip delivered to drama streamer. I don't know who the drama streamer was. I don't care. I was never asked about it. I found out about it because of Vivian Wolf like added me in something. Want to turn into content. None of this matters. He still said what he said. This is after some of Pinko's friends were ambushed and arrested. Doesn't matter. Irrelevant to the conversation we're having. Not that I'm like happy they got arrested, but irrelevant to those comments being directed towards me when I had no involvement in this. Also, months ago, this is something that I think people need to realize, and I mean this 100% wholeheartedly, and this can apply outside of politics. Time passing is not an apology. If I kick your dog and a year goes by, that wasn't me apologizing. That was me kicking the dog and hoping that eventually you'll just forget, so I won't have to apologize or confront the results of my actions. And so him saying this and time passing was not an apology. Don't care who it was delivered to, not relevant. His friends are irrelevant, as in he's irrelevant to the conversation. Time passing is not an apology. People who organize protests are irrelevant and you expect an apology. Second half, okay, neither of this is true. I didn't say people organizing protests are irrelevant. I said they're irrelevant to the conversation, and I don't expect an apology, as I say here, but I would love to be surprised. And then he's like, start bringing up about my disdain for the logo of Empire and me giving respect to it. And then I try to go into, well, let's have a more complicated, well, look, you know, flags and symbols are complicated, and the flag represents its people and a complex history, and me flying it doesn't mean I can fight back about fascism. And then I went into like, I'm allowed to have this opinion. Again, when somebody says I'm allowed to have this opinion, that you've gone into waters where it's no longer defending the opinion, just defending your right to say dumb stuff. Anyway, and then he makes an argument about this, how the fascist part was. Anyway, it goes down, logo of Empire, and he says I'm tone policing him because I said his logo of Empire is reductive and it's complete crap. And eventually he starts talking about the situations he's gone through. He's depressed without coverage and all of this, and we're going back and forth. And this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I think he brought it up randomly. I'm sad that this is the position he's currently in. I hope he gets a job. I hope he gets treatment for his depression, and I hope he can make next month's rent. Not related to what we're talking about flags. Just want to be clear, I raise chickens, 300 plus, and donate our eggs to the local food pantry. That's good, and I respect you for it, Redneq. I'm not gonna doubt you for that. That's a good thing you do. All of my time, good. Also, you missed the comments. I've always told you to be safe before trolling. That's our banter. Be fair, bro. So my armchair is being straight. No. I say multiple things, right? And I say I listed a bunch of problems I had, and yours was literally just that it's difficult to work with you. It can be difficult to work with you because of the amount of heat you get on yourself. And to be honest, I think the stop supporting a wife beater thing in the replies, a lot of people are going to see that with zero context, and that doesn't make me look very good. So I mean, it is going to be difficult to work with somebody implicitly if they're in my replies saying stop supporting a wife beater, even if they mean it in a joking manner. Most people aren't going to see the joke or the comedy in that. How do I rank Dylan? ISP? I mean, you vote. Do you get involved in local politics? I mean, you don't stream much. I'm going to be honest, ISP. You do more YouTube content, and your YouTube comment, in my opinion, is your best content. Even though I think you do very well on roundtables when I bring you on them. I think some of your best content, and people would disagree with me, I'm like talking about the indie circuit right now, is your old stuff on Chud Logic streams, man. I do mean that. Anyway, and then I say, you know, I could keep going through names, blah, blah, blah. But I'm excited for the moral outrage fueled responses. And then, people started referencing the CM Punk pipe bomb speech, and this got picked up on Destiny's Reddit, this got picked up on Vosh's Reddit, this got picked up a few areas, and it was called the Dylan Burns pipe bomb in reference to the CM Punk pipe bomb, which as a wrestling fan, I'm happy that was picked up, because that's pretty fucking cool. Anyway. Hey, this is Dylan. I just want to let you know you can find my content live at twitch.tv/DylanBurnsTV. You can also find my link to my Twitter and Discord in the description. I hope you continue to give me support, and I appreciate you for watching my videos.